March 10th is National Women's and Girls HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, a day to address how HIV affects women and girls. When we reduce HIV stigma and promote testing, prevention, and treatment for women, we can help end HIV. With this video, we hope to raise awareness about the impact of HIV on women, particularly Black and trans women, and to show support for those living and affected by HIV. Hi, my name is Dalen Michael. I'm an independent activist, and we're having a conversation today around Black women and HIV. We're going to go around the room here and do introductions, and I have a list of questions so that these women can answer and give their input on these topics. So I know everyone's screens are probably different because we're doing this virtually. So everyone may not be like in the same direction as mine. So I'm just going to go around my screen so that you all can do your introductions. So Miss Yvette Williams.
Hi, my name is Yvette Williams. I have been positive since 1998. I have been working for the Positive Health Clinic for over 20 years as a patient care navigator for people living with HIV. I am also have worked for the Open Door Incorporated, who is a transitional housing for people living with HIV as a service coordinator. I've also moved over to Center for Inclusion Health. That's for the homeless outreach program for all. Been there for 2 years. So that's about it.
Awesome. Jasmine B.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Jasmine B, and I sit on the board of Trans Uniting. It's a new organization for trans people, and also non-binary and non-gender conforming. I have been HIV positive since 1987, and that's about it. Thanks.
Awesome. Pamela Smith.
Hello, my name is Pamela Smith. I've been positive now since 1988. I've been working in the field well over 25 something years with educating others about HIV and AIDS and so forth.
Miss Clarice Jordan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Clarice Jordan. I have been an advocate now for over 27 years. I've been living with HIV for almost 40 years. I am the founder of Life After. I am a 4-time best-selling author, and Life After is now turning into its own nonprofit. I'm in the process of doing that now. So that's what I do.
Miracle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miracle Jones. I am the Director of Policy and Advocacy of One Hood Media, and I'm the Vice President of the Board for Allies Health and Wellbeing. I am an organizer and activist based out of Pittsburgh. And while I am not living with HIV, I grew up with my god uncle who was positive. And my mother was a medical provider in Atlanta. And one of her first assignments was working on the HIV/AIDS floor. And so I grew up with the understanding and knowledge of how people's perceptions were shaped by misinformation and how there was a barrier to medical care based on race and class within our systems. And so I've been working and organizing around some of these issues, and I'm very honored to be a part of this discussion today.
Awesome, that was great. All right. So the first question is, what should women and girls know about HIV in today's world? Again, I'll ask it again. What should women and girls know about HIV in today's world? And I'm going to go around the room and ask each of you to answer that question. If you need me to repeat the question, just raise your finger so I know to repeat the question. Is that cool?
Yes.
Awesome.
For me, yeah.
Awesome. Jasmine.
Oh, I believe women, and I'm going to assume that we're talking about hetero women. So
Women.
all women. So what I would say is just because you're married doesn't mean that they're faithful. There's a lot of DL men, and that means men on the down low who have other lifestyles outside of the marriage. And I would say to the girls to always protect yourself. I remember when I was young, I was hot in the pants, and but you just can't do you can't do that anymore these days because people still are dying from HIV. And that's what I think a lot of people forget. You still can die from this. And that's all.
Yes, you made two really good points. And I'm glad that you said that about DL men because it's not that men are just DL with their sexuality. There's DL men who are in the addiction community. They are DL drug abusers and may not be transparent about, their use and, sharing needles and different things like that. Those are all risk factors of HIV and AIDS. Yvette, can you answer that question?
Oh my goodness, Jasmine, you took my answer. I wrote, I mean, all these women on the board are more educated in this and probably will give somewhat of the same answer because I had written down, because I had written down some stuff because of not knowing if your partner is on the down low and, protecting oneself, prevention, motivate to educate, just some of the things that we should. I have 4 daughters. They're all in it. Oh, I was a mess when I got, when I became positive, and then I have 4 daughters. Because remember, they say, 1 in 4. So I always wanted to educate them, and my whole thing was prevention, prevention, prevention. And, just telling them to be careful, protect themselves, and educate yourself on HIV. Not only HIV, don't forget about all the other diseases, which is syphilis, gonorrhea, and all that. So it's very important to not just talk about all STDs. Yeah, and that's it for me.
All right, Miss Clarice.
Just 1 minute. Can you go to someone else and come back to me? I gotta get a baby. Hold on.
Yes, Miss Pam.
Well, I'm like Yvette as far as Jasmine. Jasmine set the whole tone exactly for what we need to be telling women and young girls. Over the years, since I've been working in this field, I've always tried to educate women about the down low and speaking with women to hear them say, oh no, that's not going to happen to me. I don't do this, I don't do that. I said the same very things early on. And so like I tell them, I'm here today to tell you that I'm infected, And so when people ask how and whatnot, that's not important. But what I tell women today, you need to learn how to protect yourself at all times because your partner is not going to actually tell you. And so when I was doing like street outreach or whatever, and I try to offer condoms to women, and what I said before, that's the excuses of why they don't want none. And I would tell them, right now, you're talking to me. How do you know if your significant other, your husband, your boyfriend, or whoever is not with your sister, your cousin, your next door neighbor? Because it's a reality. You can't sugarcoat this stuff anymore, because people are still being infected and impacted by this disease. So I just try to tell them, protect themselves at all times because you just don't know. Everybody is not going to be honest. And I throw a little saying in, because sometimes we as women, we want to always be the provider. We always want to be the caregiver, and we always want to respect somebody else's feelings and so forth. And so if we get in a relationship and they say, well, no, we don't need to use condoms and da da da. No, yes, you do. You need to learn how to say, no glove, no love.
Amen.
That's one of my little skills that I say to them.
Yes, I appreciate that so much. I really don't think that people understand, how important it is to be in charge of your own healthcare, be in charge of your own body, make decisions for your own body. It shouldn't be offensive if you choose to protect yourself, whether it be with a condom, whether it be with PrEP, whatever your safe practices are, you shouldn't feel guilty about taking those practices, whether you're in a relationship or not. Miracle, your turn.
Yes, what I would tell women and girls about HIV and AIDS is that it is a communicable disease that anyone can get. No one is immune from getting HIV or AIDS, and being independent and taking on your own healing means protecting yourself and understanding that you can get HIV through unprotected sex, through sharing of needles, through bodily fluids, and it doesn't mean you're dirty. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Anyone can get this illness, and you have to be able to protect yourself and understand that even though technology has changed and even though there are better medicines out there, it's better to make sure you're engaging in prevention. It's better to make sure you're having conversations with your partner. It's better to make sure you know who your medical providers are and your resources, so you have that information instead of needing that information. And so you really have to understand that people are still dying. You can still catch it. You can't look at somebody and tell whether or not they have a disease. You can't look at somebody and decide whether or not you're going to risk your health. Each and every time you are sexually active, you need to make sure that you are protecting yourself. And if you are not, you need to make sure you have access to clinics that can get you tested and clinics that can get you access to medicines to prevent you from sharing the illness.
Awesome, awesome. I love that answer. Are you ready, Miss Clarice?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, you all. Um,
You're fine.
the thing that I would want women to know is it starts at loving yourself. You have to love yourself. If you love yourself, you are going to do what needs to be done to protect yourself. Whether that's getting tested, that's wearing a condom, that's knowing, your partner's status. For me, I got infected by my first partner, my first time. He knew he had it, didn't tell me. So had I just loved myself enough to make him wear a condom, like Pam said, no glove, no love, it's real. If you know that person may be sleeping with someone else or having sex with someone else, then you need to, whether or not you know it or not, you love yourself enough to protect yourself. And so it all starts with loving yourself. And then the rest is going to follow suit because of you loving yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Now, let me read the next question. Why do you think medical providers are not prioritizing Black women in conversations around PrEP and preventative care? I'm going to ask it one more time, just so you know. Why do you think medical providers are not prioritizing Black women in conversations around PrEP and preventative care? Awesome. Miracle, I'm going to ask you this first.
I think the broad answer is going to be white supremacy. That's just what I'm going to start out with, is that the people who are more fluent, who had access to a lot were able to have pushed them. And because of some of the negative stereotypes that pertain to Black men, medical providers still reach out and educate Black women about what was happening in communities and numbers. It's very important that this population gets the same information, the same you for you education, the same videos, the same outreach. I always tell people this came from the episode of Girlfriends, where misinformation was shared in that episode. And a lot of people, especially Black women, have had to deal with so much stereotyping that they just felt that reaching out to medical providers for HIV and AIDS was like another barrier and burden. And now we're seeing the effects of that. And I think, again, it just goes back to this country does not value Black women. And so medical providers did not.
Awesome. I thank you for that answer. That really summed it up. I'm going to reframe the question a little bit, and I'm going to ask Jasmine this question. Why do you think medical providers are not prioritizing Black trans women in conversations around PrEP and preventative care? Again, why do you think medical providers are not prioritizing Black trans women in conversations around PrEP and preventative care?
I think a lot of them feel that we're not educated. And a lot of us don't go to the doctor. I would say that we are like the less of these. We are the less of these. We're always passed over in conversations around medical care, preventative care, any kind of care, actually. And that's why, when you go to your doctor's appointments, you need to express your concerns and you need to join up with CABs. They have consumer advisory boards, and it's very important that you become a part of that, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and that's what I had to do back in the 90s when I was just first starting out in my transition and dealing with having HIV at the same time. It was a lot. A lot of doctors didn't even want to mess with me because I was HIV positive, because I guess they felt I was already going to die. So why bother, and that turned out not to be the case, obviously. So, but I think trans women, especially Black trans women, need to be more proactive in their healthcare and speak up. Use your mouth.
Awesome.
I almost said something else, but
You summed it up well. You summed it up well. I think we got some good solid answers from that question. So I'm going to move on to the next one because I want to ask everyone this question.
I did want to say something.
Oh, go ahead, Miss Yvette.
Just listen to Miracle. When I saw that question, I did not know how to answer it. I didn't want to start off negative about it because it's kind of a negative question towards a Black woman and HIV. And then I thought about where are all the Black doctors for people, women and men living with HIV? Because there's not a lot of them that maybe can help spread the word to the, Black women and men about HIV and prevention and things like that. So I just wanted to say that on top of what Miracle said, which was really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I wanted to say, Dalen, on that note, is that we as women around not just HIV, other health issues, we don't ask a lot of questions. In other words, like, because the question was referring to like PrEP, we don't ask questions because we don't know about that treatment. You understand what I'm saying? And so a lot of times when we go to those appointments, the doctors don't mention it to you because we don't know. So Miracle summed it all up, but still in the nutshell, like I said, a lot of doctors don't even engage in certain questions like that. I remember I went to a conference one year, and so they realized that a lot of African-American women was not even getting even asking about their risk factors. But when Caucasian women go in, they were asking them about their risk factors. So now, you know, they do ask people about risk factors, but they still don't get to the root of what people really need.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
And
that.
Daylin, can I add to that?
Yes.
Like Pam said, we have to be proactive. But I asked the question, why is PrEP not offered to women? And they could not answer the question. And of course, you know, I got on my soapbox, you know, if you want to eradicate HIV, then you need to treat everybody.
Yep.
And there are some things that are in the HIV/AIDS world that women are not even offered.
Yep.
And it's a problem. And it's because we don't have doctors that represent us, you know, especially women of color, you know, whether you're trans or trans or not, we don't have doctors that represent us. And a lot of times we're in the background because we are not the ones that they feel that are being put at risk for HIV now. But the fact is that HIV is still killing women, especially African-American women. And so we need to be proactive about that. And if we don't ask for it, they're not going to offer it to us.
And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna jump back in on that too. But I'm just gonna say here in Southwestern Pennsylvania, it ain't happening. You don't even have a handful of African-American women that will speak about themselves living with this virus. I've been an advocate for many, many years. Clarice have stepped up and been an advocate. There's others who have been an advocate, but what I'm saying, if you go to another state, you got women that's out there fighting. You got organizations that's there. Do you know what I mean? They come together. Here, you can't even get a group of women together to because of that stigma that we had talked about before. So, you know, and it's sad. So you have to learn how to advocate for yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I just
And I
wanted to add, I think it's also about educating the doctors, because when I went for my annual, I asked for a HIV screen, and they told me they had to double check because they weren't sure of my risk factors if insurance would cover the test. So it's not only educating the community, it's also educating the medical providers, because they really default to stereotyping and they feel that HIV is a gay disease still. And so they don't even know sometimes the risk factors, the questions to ask, or even the procedures to get the test covered, or even offer the test at even some OBGYN clinics. So again, everybody is impacted by this, and everyone has to educate themselves and do better.
Yeah.
awesome. That was an amazing response, because so many times do people go to the doctor for their annual or for their yearly checkup or whatever have you, and they're not even asked if they would like to have an HIV test. And I know the CDC says like once in your lifetime or once a year or something like that. But if you have more than one sexual partner in the year's time, you need to be tested. You know what I mean? Like these are conversations, especially in our communities, because our HIV is more prevalent in Black communities and in BIPOC communities. So that's a larger conversation, but there definitely needs to be mandated training around sexual health in these larger hospitals, especially when it comes to Black women.
I think if they normalize it and put it like on a checklist, when you get all your they check all these things off to test, your routine checks. I think HIV and stuff should be on the routine check, the checklist.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second here.
So while you're thinking, Daylin, I just want to say this also. So when we go to our appointments, they're on a schedule. So, I mean, you really got to advocate for yourself, and you got to really say, what is this? What do that mean? Da da this and da da that. Because if you don't, they just do the basic and get you in and get you out.
Absolutely.
Pam, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
You have to go with the questions that you want to ask before you get to that doctor's office.
Yep.
And the thing is that we still, as women, we don't educate ourselves about everything that goes along with HIV and AIDS. We still don't educate ourselves. So the doctor is not going to be the one to tell you the things that you need to get done. A lot of times, they're, like Pam said, they're on a time schedule. So you have to go in saying, okay, I read about PrEP. Tell me about PrEP. These are my risk factors. I want an HIV test, and I want more than one a year.
Yeah.
You know, I want just like a mammogram or colonoscopy or anything else. If you are sexually active, you need to be tested. And you need to be tested more than one time in your lifetime.
Clarice, they also probably don't do that because they don't know that. And then if you like start to open up that can of worms, there's stuff that, you know, that needs to be done with it. Like,
That's right. That's right. That's exactly.
And I
right.
believe also that we should implement the buddy system. Maybe say, girl, do you need me to go to the doctor appointment with you? Do you need me to come and sit with you? Because you might forget something that you didn't, you forgot to ask something,
That's
you know, or even advocate for them, you know, because they might not know the questions to ask, you know. And I believe, and go back to the old school method when we used to do outreach, you know, we used to any doctor's appointment, we would take some pamphlets with us and just leave them in the office in the waiting room, you know,
You
so
all-
people can
Sorry.
go ahead.
You all know that when we used to have some, and we don't have support groups anymore. So when
Right.
we had support groups, we had women that were living this thing and had been living this thing for a while tell us the questions that we were supposed to ask. This is what you need to know. Most people don't even know that they need to know what their T cell count is and what their
Right.
CD4 is. You know, we were told when you go to your gynecologist, this is what you need them to do, you know. And so because we don't have support groups anymore because of funding cuts, you know, and there's nobody to really run them. So we don't have the buddy system anymore.
exactly.
So it is important to advocate for yourself until you get someone or reach out to someone. A lot of times we're so busy taking care of everyone else that we don't take care of ourselves.
Right.
So we're always on the back burner. So we go in for a 10-minute appointment with a doctor, stay in there 5 minutes, and then I'm okay. And you haven't asked any questions. Nothing has really been done. You know, so it's just important. It's important for us to take care of ourselves, be educated about it, and advocate for yourself. The doctors are going to do what you ask them to do. And if they don't, you find another doctor.
Amen.
Awesome, awesome. So this question has some data tied into it. While African Americans only make up 13% of the US population, they accounted for 42% of the almost 38,000 new HIV diagnoses in 2018. The highest rate among all racial ethnic groups. Black women accounted for 57% of new infections among women in 2018. How can healthcare providers help to decrease stigma of HIV to reach Black women? I know that's a
I did write something on it about it. Just for me, I think the healthcare providers need to you know, talk about the tests, talk about risks, talk about health issues. It's about normalizing talking about these issues so people can feel okay to speak about it. A lot of people feel shame to even talk about these issues because of how it's going to look on them. is once the healthcare providers and, can get involved, you'll find out a whole bunch of stuff about women that may need more communication. So
And I want to say, I don't know per se what the healthcare provider can do. It's kind of like what Pam said. Here in Westmoreland County, in Allegheny County, we don't have a lot of women that are willing to speak about HIV and put a face to it. So a lot of women, unfortunately, still feel like HIV won't happen to them. Yes, the providers can get involved, and we need more providers that look like us, but the ones of us that are positive, we got to spread the word. All of us that are on this panel, we have been in this fight for a long, long time. And it wasn't because of what my provider said to me that made me get involved. It's what someone else that was living in this, living this fight or living this life said to us that got involved, to say, get involved. And she didn't just say get involved. I can remember going to that first support group and meeting Miss Pam. And Miss Pam saying, she was Pam Smith also. And Miss Pam, she said to all of us, I'll go in there and I'm crying and everything. I'm dying. Why y'all laughing? And she said, shut the hell up. Ain't nobody dying. You're going to get educated. You're going to live. And not only are you going to live, but you're going to get involved. And you all are going to be a voice. And so she reared us and trained us to do just what we're doing now. And that's what we need. We need women to understand that, we have to speak. We have to speak. We can't be ashamed. I know, stigma is hard, and I can't take anything away from stigma. Stigma is hard. Sometimes stigma is worse than having the virus a lot of times. But we were made to deal with our stuff, deal with our feelings so that we could go ahead and live and survive. So I don't know really how much the provider can do. It's on us. We have to put the word out there.
And I simply said that make sure the providers are giving the proper information that one can understand. Because a lot of times when people go, they don't actually understand all that them words they be using, them medical words and terminology they be using. No, you break it down to them, but in the meantime, it's just so important that we as women, like I said, it's not just around HIV, it's around all health issues that we need to advocate for ourselves, because it's not happening in the health system, period.
Also, I wanted to add that we don't have like AIDS conferences or HIV AIDS conferences anymore, especially here in the city. I don't remember the last one that we've had here in Pittsburgh. And we need funding. We need to get the church back involved with education around HIV and AIDS, because that's where you find a lot of the Black providers are in the church. The doctors, the, healthcare professionals. Also in just going to, just spreading the word. It's not even advertised on the news anymore that, people are still dying about, with this disease because of the stigma, I don't know. I just didn't want to die, and that's why I got involved when I did. And I know that, because I saw too many people just waste away, and I didn't want to be that. I wanted to try to do something to help somebody, and that's all.
Awesome. Did you want to add input on that one, Miracle? Or is it safe to move on to the next question?
We can move on.
Okay. What are some of the barriers to healthcare that you all see Black women and girls deal with?
I'll start. I think one is finances. A lot of people worry about the cost of care. Another is access. I think it was Yvette who talked about the lack of Black doctors in the area, but a lot of these doctors are overwhelmed, especially the further you get outside of the city. It takes sometimes weeks and months to get an appointment, and so there's access. There's not enough doctors and medical providers. And then there's not enough culturally competent medical providers, after that. So you have to worry about somebody saying something to you disrespectful, people being rude to you, people making comments about the way you look, where you live. And so for a lot of Black people, the doctors are places of trauma. And so not only are you getting rid of trying to fight the stigma of HIV and AIDS, you're also trying to fight the stigma of people going to the doctor and being mistreated, or going to the doctor and finding out something negative. And so trying to change and make the doctors a place of care and prevention it has been a huge barrier. But I think a lot of the panelists on this, talk have been doing the work to get more people motivated to seek out care. And I'm just, again, honored to be in their presence.
Thank you, Miracle.
I think even with what Miracle said, the long wait to get an appointment is something is terrible. Transportation is terrible. Children, you have to, parents, whoever you're taking care of, boyfriends who don't want you to go to hospital. I mean, it's all kind of different issues that keep Black women have to work but can't get off your job because your job won't let you get off because you will get fired. You don't have that kind of good job that will understand that you need to take care of yourself, or you're hurting and something's really wrong with you. So those are big issues. Not educated enough. Some people just don't know that what's going on with them. They should go to the hospital. They want to self-medicate or home treatment yourself because they can't get to the hospital to get health care. Mm-hmm. That's barriers.
Before I go around the room, there's something I want to say that I think is important. I grew up, my mom is a cosmetologist. So I grew up in her hair salon. Every day after school, I had to go to her hair salon. There were so many different conversations that I was able to, be a part of, or to sit back and listen to at an early age, which I think made me a lot more, of a talker, and of a speaker, because I got to experience a lot of different older Black women at a young age. What I've seen on the outside looking in, and this applies to Black women and Black trans women, they are always so busy taking care of everyone else that they often aren't able to prioritize themselves. Mm-hmm. And I say that correlates to Black trans women too, because the Black trans women have carried the community on their backs. That's why we have Pride. That's why we have wraparound services. You know what I mean? A lot of, when I first came into the community, Black trans women would have pageants and shows to raise money to take care of, their trans siblings, to help people out with issues, that were going on in the community. That they carried that burden. You know what I mean? And you got to be a mother. You got to work multiple jobs. You got to be a teacher. You got to be a provider. You have to do it in a way that you're resilient about it. You have to, you can't, let anyone know you're sweating, but you carry so much weight on your shoulders in the community, in so many different spaces. Black women are the head. So I think that another barrier is, having to be the person that everyone relies on. And putting yourself on the back burner. That I think that within itself is a barrier, and that's something that larger systems need to understand. If someone's a few minutes late for appointment, it should be okay.
I
If
agree. Yeah,
if someone's, if someone is in between insurances because, turnover at jobs, keeping a job, that is a barrier, it should be okay. Your first visit should be free. It should be okay. If you don't have insurance, you still should be able to be seen and be talked to about prep and talked to about your options. So that's something that I observed, growing up, I mean, as in the intersectionality of being Black and queer. That's something that I've been able to witness as an individual, that being a barrier.
Right.
Um,
I'm glad you brought that up, Daylin, because that is a big barrier for women and African American women. Childcare. You know, now we can't even, a lot of times there's a lot of appointments we have to cancel because we don't have childcare. And with the pandemic, you can't even take small children to the clinic, to your HIV/AIDS appointments or to your your PCP appointments because they're not allowed in.
Mhm.
So if you can't take your child or the children that you are watching, because a lot of us, HIV is just a small portion of our lives,
Yeah.
because life doesn't stop because we have HIV. We still are caregivers, we still are the head of the family, people are still relying on us, like you said. So we have to be able, we're trying to juggle all of this. And sometimes we drop some balls. And most of the time, the ones we drop are the ones taking care of us. So, there's lack of daycare, lack of money. If you don't have enough money to put food on your table, how are you? You definitely don't have enough money to catch the bus.
Lack of support.
You can't get a ride. You definitely don't have money to pay a jitney. So again, we're just trying to make it. A lot of times we're all just trying to keep our heads above water. And so a lot of times we put ourselves on the back burner. And, even back in the day, women, we started self-medicating because we didn't have money and things to get to the doctors. First of all, we didn't trust them. And then we didn't even have any money to do that. So we had to learn how to take care of ourselves. So women for generations have been doctoring on themselves because they didn't have any other choice. And it's pretty much still the same way. We don't have any other choice because of the way our lives are going. So we need some social services to help us out a little bit. Maybe have a clinic with a daycare, or get some bus tickets, give us some transportation voucher, something.
Okay. I feel like I'm steering the conversation, but I don't care. I feel I feel like one-stop shops, clinics that offer wraparound services, like if you can get medical care, dentistry, um, social services, pantry, if you can get everything in one place, it really, really, really takes a load off of you because now I don't have to go to the grocery store. Now I don't have to go here. Now I don't have to go. If I can get everything in one place and I could just set one day or a block of 2 hours or 1 hour, it will make it so much easier than rather than me having to run here, run there, run here, run there. Now I have to cut something out. Now something lacking because I may have money to get to one appointment, but not 3 appointments. So when you have multiple services being offered out of one space, that is such a blessing to people who are in need.
Also, my cousin, who's a nurse in Denver, she was saying that they have doctors who have weekend hours. They have Saturday hours. And that would help a lot with like these girls who have to work every day and can't get a day off during the week, to go to the doctor. So I think maybe that should be looked at.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I would say I think that because of the capitalistic takeover of medicine, it is very hard because, like Cleese was saying, they're working on a schedule. And so to advocate for community-based centers, you really have to find a beneficial model for some of these companies in order to do that. But yeah, I would also advocate for having these providers next to daycare centers to have stipends for childcare. In addition, have job training, housing, all these opportunities at these wraparound services, even next to a beauty shop, right? Having it so it's in these areas that we go instead of putting these medical centers far out of community, you know, because there's also this idea of like having to take the walk of shame when you go to your medical provider a little bit, because there's some of the places are so far out of the way. And it's just this reinforcement that your illness is something that's negative instead of a positive experience. And so I think that there's a whole lot that we can be advocating for in the future to make sure we have these wraparound services for the people that need them.
Thank you for that. Awesome. So another question that I have here, how do you describe consent? And what should we teach young women about consent?
I like to go first, just short and sweet. Teach these young people sex education. No means no, think before doing anything, boundaries, prevention. And sometimes I think about having young people teach young people, you know, somebody who's been through something, like peer educators or something like that. Because sometimes I can talk to someone and a young person and they can look at me as a mother, but if a young person come in and say the same thing, they'll say, oh yeah, wow, yeah, you know what I mean? So just thinking about the things, boundaries and education, and no means no.
And Yvette, you took my answer.
You know, we like-minded. Everybody on here is like-minded.
Yes,
Yes.
clearly that's exactly what I said. They need to say no, and when they say no, it needs to be heard and meant, you know. So yeah, that's what I kind of wrote down as far as
And along
consent.
with that, I think Yvette talked about boundaries. You have to teach young women to set boundaries, women in general to set boundaries. And also, like she said, no means no, but also teach a woman between an unhealthy relationship, what an unhealthy relationship looks like, what a healthy relationship looks like. A lot of times we as women, we think we're in these great healthy relationships and we are in total dysfunction. And we don't have a clue that we're there because we've learned to accept bad relationships, you know, or unhealthy relationships. You know, unhealthy relationship, if I'm the only one giving in this thing, there's something wrong with that. That's unhealthy.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
how they grow up. It's what they see in the house too, and their mothers and their fathers.
They learn by example.
exactly. So those are the things that have to be broken.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we're talking about, especially about, you know, how to, you know, no equals no and no means no. A lot of this is generational, you know, and I always have to go Bible, but there are a lot of generational curses that we deal with in the Black community, especially our women. And there are a lot of things that have to be broken, you know, and, you know, I was one that said when I got HIV, as far as the buck stops here, won't no more of my nieces or my nephews ever have to live with HIV, because I'm gonna make sure that they know, you know, what they need to do to protect themselves. My nieces, I teach them about unhealthy relationships Even my small niece and nephew, I teach them, it all has to be age appropriate, but I start teaching them, before they start talking. I don't have a problem taking my nieces and stuff to HIV AIDS programs and stuff, because I need them to understand how to protect themselves. That's the only way the curse is going to stop. And so with me, I have decided that the buck stops here.
I
I
think
also,
that,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Jasmine.
Oh, I was going to say since I'm the token trans here, I'm going to say to the trans women that you don't have to gobble up everybody when you're young, just to prove that you're, pretty enough, feminine enough. You're enough, period. And I know a lot of girls get involved in these toxic ass relationships, getting beat on. I got beat on once, and I thought that he was the best I was ever going to do, and I found out otherwise. And so I think a lot of it is just having some self love and for yourself, and know what you won't tolerate. What's not acceptable. And drugs and all that. And I know when you're under the influence of drugs and alcohol, your nose may turn into, well, and I know men are, especially, in that type of environment, they can be predators. There are wolves in sheep's clothing out there, and I know a lot of girls say, well, he likes me. Oh, girl, he likes me and all this. And girl, everything that glitter isn't gold. And what we have a saying around in our community, in the rainbow community dick. Okay. She done had them, he done had them, they done had them, everybody done had that, so it's a no. And especially in Pittsburgh, because we have such a small community and everybody knows everybody, and I'm not sure who's been had everybody up in here or not. But I was never that girl. I was never that girl to say, oh, well, I can't come in this club because I just slept with him, and him. I can't do that. And that was never my story. I'm from the sex worker. I was a sex worker when I was young, and I would do that to get my drugs, and you have to be even, I think a lot of times we miss out on sex work, is also prevalent in our community. A lot of girls do some pretty disastrous things for $40, and that's a shame because, back in my day, $40 wouldn't get you anywhere. But anyway, yeah, I think a lot of things aren't mentioned when it comes, our behaviors and our stigmas of, I know a lot of people don't want to go to Central Outreach because, oh, that's the gay clinic. No, that's a clinic. They have doctors and nurses. Everybody needs to go, and that's basically all I have on that.
I would say for me, what I teach people is consent is an affirmative consent. So an enthusiastic yes. It's not because of coercion. It's not because of power dynamics. It's not because you owe somebody something. Consent is, the enthusiastic yes. It is where you feel safe and valued. It is where your needs are being met. And at any given point, you're able to change your mind. Because I think a lot of people feel that once they get into a relationship or once they start the process, they can't say no anymore. But it's like, no, not only do you have the ability to change your mind, your partner is supposed to respect you enough to understand that, and also to figure out what your needs are and what your desires are to make sure you're safe, and in a trusting environment that you can feel free to do whatever it is that you are consenting to do. But it's not being peer pressured into anything. It's not doing something because you think everybody else is doing it. It's not doing anything to fit in. It's doing what you feel comfortable to do when you feel comfortable and with who you feel comfortable doing it with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of people think that consent is just wrapped around sex, and it's not. You know what I mean? I'm very stern. Don't touch me like that. I don't like that. I don't like how that feels. Can we try it different? Can I have a woman officer? Can I have a woman doctor? You know what I mean? These are all things that you should feel comfortable saying as an individual because you are in charge of your own self. And I think that, some of our trauma and experiences in our life make us feel like we're not in charge or that we have to tolerate certain treatment or tolerate, certain tones. But no, if I'm in a doctor's office, y'all are making money off of me. Y'all are charging my insurance. Help me, please, make me leave happy. Let me leave feeling like I'm in charge of my own health care. Let me leave feeling like I'm being taken care of and that all my needs are being met. You know what I mean? I hate feeling like I'm a burden when it comes to any type of service that I'm paying for or that you're benefiting from by providing to me. So feel confident, feel strong, and go in there and make sure that you are happy with your experience, or leave and go somewhere else.
Daylin, I'm so glad you brought up
I
about
like that,
doctor's
yeah.
appointments, about doctors,
Mhm.
and feeling comfortable enough to say, to set boundaries with them. I had an experience when I went to my gynecologist, and I had to tell her, you know, because some doctors, you don't, before you see your doctor, you see an intern. I don't have any problem with, the doctor learning, but there are some procedures and things that are being done that's not the time to teach. That's not, I'm not a practice dummy, and I allowed the intern to do the procedure, and ended up in a whole lot more pain and having to go through what should have only took 15-minute procedure turned into an hour procedure of being invasively invaded. Let me put it like that. And so till I had to say enough. I was crying in tears. I was in so much pain. And I told the guy, I told my gynecologist, I said, she said, because the procedure was going to have to be done again. I said, no, it won't. Not if you're not going to do it. If you're not going to do it and you're going to have another intern, come in there and try to do this procedure on me. I myself, I'm a large woman. And so a lot of times when you go to the gynecologist, they feel because you're a large woman, they have to use large equipment on you, and I had to set boundaries. You won't do this again, or I won't be back. Don't send the intern in here to look at me when it's time for a gynecological appointment. Don't even send them, because they're going to get their feelings hurt. And along with them, you're going to get yours hurt too, because I will never go through this again. But women, we just feel like we have to put up with it, because there are doctors. I tell people all the time, especially women, my insurance pays your salary. And if I don't like the care I'm getting, then I can find another doctor.
But yeah, I think that consent in general is a huge conversation. It's not just about my body. It's not just about um, sex. It's not just around sexual health. Consent applies to so many different, what I mean, treatments, so many different exchanges in your life, and you are in charge, and you do have the right to speak up for yourself and to advocate for yourself. I know a prior conversation we all had was, I have to be the doctor, I have to be the lawyer, I have to be the teacher. We have to fill those shoes because we don't have people standing in the front of Black women, making it easier on you all. You know what I mean? And I just want to say, I appreciate the privilege and honor of moderating a conversation with such brilliant and beautiful and educated women with such colorful experiences, such colorful life experiences. I really appreciate you all coming and doing this panel. This is such a privilege and an honor for me to take up space here and have this conversation with you all. You all gave such beautiful answers to each question. You all answered so eloquently.
I just want to say, it's good to see some of the women that I've spoken with and did speaker engagements and been around for 20 plus years. Claire Reed, Jasmine, Pam, we've done a lot of support groups. I did women empowerment luncheons for all women who are positive for 13 years. They were all my speakers. It was just amazing. And to me, Miracle, you're amazing, Miracle. Thank you for being on this panel. I truly appreciate it. And that's it. Just that we're still here. We're long-term survivors. And it's good to see everyone still doing the same thing, which is educating and navigating and being advocates. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Yvette.
So like Clarice was saying earlier, let her soul rest in peace, Pam Simpson. She was a trailblazer with us women being out there and being advocates for ourselves. And so, and like Clarice said, whenever somebody came to the support group and felt like this was it for them, like she told them, shut up and just listen. And then, learn, what you can do for yourself and, continue to come to the support groups and so forth. But we lost Pam a couple years ago. So, yeah. But yeah, so I just try to, educate people no matter where I go. And when engaging conversation with people, they have to feel comfortable to even be able to let you know anything about them. Just because you meet somebody once or twice, they don't tell you everything, so you got to make that rapport with them so they can kind of like open up. And I'm saying that to say, like, we as women, even like when we go to doctors appointments, we don't tell them everything, and I try to encourage people, in order to get what you really need, you need to say, what's going on, how you feeling, where you at, so you can get it. And like Clarice was saying, if they ain't doing what we are asking them to do, then move on to the next doctor. So, and Jasmine, I want to say, yeah, I miss all those conference and stuff that we used to have back in the day. It ain't going to happen again, because the goal now is to stop HIV and AIDS. So even though there is no cure, there's PrEP. And so, yes, other places there are, those conference and so forth, but we used to really, really have a lot of that, going on around here. Mid-Atlantic used to do a whole lot of trainings and conference and so forth, but the funding is just not there anymore. And this is what I try to tell people that's living with the virus, learn how to advocate for yourself instead of having your hand out, gimme, 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 gimme. Because one day you're going to knock on the door and gimme ain't going to be there. You know what I mean? So you got to know how to go through those loopholes to get what you need, whatever agency or whatever health issues or whatever it is that you need. They used to have the daycare in certain agencies where you could bring your kids. Now they don't want you bringing your kids no more. Yeah. A lot has changed.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Black women, I'm going to say Black women, Black trans women too, is we've lost the sense of community. We've lost the sense of each one teach one, each, girl, asking you just questions, over the phone. If you're talking to your friends, you go into your cookouts, your family reunions. Girl, are you talking to your fellow sisters, your cousins, your aunties, your grandmother? because there was a time when I was doing street outreach, that people over 50 were becoming high risk groups, because they were out having sex, and we were having to go into nursing homes and passing out information about HIV and AIDS, because old people still have sex,
Yeah.
and I think that we need that bond again. We need something. We need to, be involved with like Juneteenth, and we need to be, AIDS needs to be brought up again during Pride, and it's just in, everybody seems like everybody's forgotten about it because of COVID, and hell, if Black people didn't want to take a vaccine for COVID, how the hell are they going to take PrEP for HIV?
Well, it goes back.
So so there's that stigma, girl, and Black men still are at the top for not going to doctor's appointments. They don't get there until something hurts, or they don't feel good. That's the only time they'll go to the doctor. But just getting basic checkups and getting information when you go to those checkups is imperative. That's all I have.
Just wanted to say that, again, like everyone has said, I am so honored to be on this panel with, my fellow sisters, and I miss you all so much. It seems like we don't see each other and we don't do anything anymore, because unfortunately, the agencies and stuff that are here that we're working for, they don't know how to play nice in the sand. Everybody is like, like a barrel of crabs, and I understand because the funding pool is just not, 0 to none. So everyone's fighting for funding, and they're forgetting the larger picture of who it's really about. It's about the clients. It's about us, the ones of us that are living with it. And so I miss the support groups. I miss we were a family, I remember that, the support groups and things that we had. We were a family, and I miss that. I miss that. And I think the generation that is coming behind us, I feel like they're being done a disservice because they don't have what we had, and we just, I wish there was something that we could do, to make the powers that be understand that, we need some things. We need some support groups. We need some pair-led support groups. It was because of Pam Simpson that all of us are here. Amen. Each and every one of us that are on this panel, that's why we're here, because of Pam Simpson, and, her legacy lives on in all of us. But, we just, we like Jasmine said, we have to do more to teach the women that are coming behind us, because, we all are eventually going to die off the scene, and unfortunately, who's going to be here to be the voice for the women that are going to have to live with this after us? And so I just, I wish the agencies would really just take heed that I understand it's about the funding and everything is about money, but some things, we need to put back and implement again, because it really does help. We have no support, we have no buddy systems, we have none of that, and we need that. So I just want to say I love each and every one of you all.
We love you too, Clarice.
And Clarice, I want to say too that, I work for one of the funders, and there is plenty of money to go around.
Oh,
it is not the money situation that keeps people from, at least, I mean, they might say that, or they might think that, but I think there's other things. There's some ego. Dalen and I will, I'm saying too much, but there's some egos. I think the egos get in the way a lot.
Yep.
Well, I think
who wants to be, like you said, crabs in a barrel. So who wants to be on? Everyone wants to be on top. They want to be like, they want to have everybody, and that it shouldn't work that way.
And Sue, I can vouch for that, because that's how it was before. I used to be on the Southwestern AIDS Coalition, and I would get so sick and tired of going to those meetings They talking about the same stuff. They was fighting about what agencies should get this, what agencies should get that. And like Clarice said earlier, at the end of the day, y'all bickering about who's getting this and who's doing that. What about the clients?
Yep.
Falling right through the
Yep.
little in the loopholes because y'all
Yep.
ain't even worried about y'all dollars and holding your agency together. And
Yeah,
so, and so to say that again, it's still happening. You know, it's still happening. You know, and Sue, like you said, it ain't really about the money. It's about this one want to do this one want to do that. Oh no, yeah, and they bickering back and forth. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sad.
It is sad, and I appreciate Sue for finding to do the project like this, the projects that we're working on like this, and you have little organizations with small budgets like True Tea and other places trying to recreate programming, you know what I mean, and keep conversations like this relevant. But we have a bigger fight with, you know, the core agencies, and y'all know who they are, on giving us money or for us fundraising to do things like dinners and AIDS walks and AIDS banquets and, you know, all the things that you all used to do, you know, back in the day. I'm making my mission to not erase this community and these conversations, to always advocate to have, you know, this a part of, you know, what we all are doing, or, you know what I mean, or make, you know, options like this available for us to do, you know, to spread education and to spread information. Because these videos, you know, social media is everything now. That's what everybody's in now. So these videos I know will reach a lot of people, and I know that our mission is accomplished with what we have accomplished today.